And welcome back to Flexible Games, where we are gonna cover the Empyrion file system. I've promised that we're gonna cover it, and since the series ended, might as well cover it here. So, jumping right into this, you will find these files in your Steam apps common Empyrion Galactic Survival content, and then sectors. And this sectors file, that is the default world. When you start a new game and you say it's the default world, that is what is used. Now there are other options. See, here's the default world. You can see it's basically empty. But a default multiplayer has its own set of sectors and play fields, etc. So you can create your own by, adding one in here and just saying, okay, we're gonna add a folder. We're gonna include all of the different things that you need. So just follow that template and you'll be able to add your own. But we are going to look at the default scenario, which uses this sectors.yaml. Now, before we go further, I need to talk about the YAML hereafter as YAML. The YAML file format stands for yet another markup language, as far as I remember. And in my programming experience, 25 years of programming, this has got to be the worst file type to use for this type of thing. Let me define that. So here is that sector's YAML file. And the thing to note with this, every single space is important. So, the YAML files use spaces as indentation. Do not use tabs. Do not use tabs. If I put a tab in here, right there, file is rejected. Completely rejected. Does not work. If I put a space right here, file is rejected because it's expecting a certain format. So obviously Notepad++ identifies this as a YAML file, and you can actually, it knows what a block is. But like if you put an extra space in there, completely breaks the file. Like I said, the worst file type to use with this. They could have used XML and eliminated any and all problems, but they didn't. So if you use a note or a text editor that automatically indents using tabs when you hit enter, if that is a tab, breaks the file. And you don't want trailing. You really have to be very, very, very careful with this type of file. So with that, we're going to go forward, and any and all problems that you face with editing these files, always triple check your spacing. So obviously, the pound sign indicates a comment, and that is basically ignored. I'm not sure how it handles the 3 hyphens, but I'm assuming that is like something. I don't know how that works. But anyway, going forward, okay, this is the default world, and we just got done exploring the entire sector. And now each planet is a playfield. The entire thing together is a sector. So it's one solar system. So you can imagine our solar system as one sector, which includes the Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars. All of those would be different play fields. So here's the best way that I can define the coordinates for all of these. Now, I've already set up a screen grab of the sector that we've got. I have put the sun right in the middle, and I've included the 0, 0. I'm using Photoshop here. I'm including the 0, 0 right at the sun. And let me explain how I've kind of reverse engineered this a little bit. The coordinates here, 0, 30, 0. The middle one, this is X, Y, and Z. Now, this is a two-dimensional representation of a three-dimensional world. So the top down, you have to ignore one of the coordinates, and the coordinate to ignore is the middle one. Okay, so essentially 0, 0 is where the sun is, which makes absolute sense. It's the center of the sector. All of the other coordinates for all of the other planets are based off of that. Now, Photoshop, I have this little thing up in the corner here. I'm not sure if that's going to come through in the video or not. But in the info here, you can actually, if you drag this corner, you can drag this corner and reset your 0, 0, 0 mark. And then you can get coordinates based off of that. So if we look at Akua right here, and these are not going to be exact because of, you know, pixel changes and differences. But if we look at Akua in our file here, if we scroll down, you can see Akua right here. Okay, 92, 117. Now, if we go back to Photoshop, if we go over Akua right here, I've stretched and scaled this to sort of match up with this. And X right here is 90, and Y is, I mean, in Photoshop, Y shows as minus 113. But for some reason, imagine instead of being pixels, this being an XY, basically an XY graph. So this here, this quadrant would be positive, positive. Okay, this would be negative, positive. This would be negative, negative. This would be positive, negative. So XY, so this would essentially be 92, positive 111. And if we go back here, that is really, really close to what this says. So I tried to scale it to show that that reflection. So as that is more or less explained, we're going to move on to how all of these are set up. Going forward here, you know, the color, this is basically an RGB value, and it shows as a circle, which if we look in Photoshop is that color, and it's a circle. So all these other things, there's a like a diamond, there's a star. The file itself actually tells you available icons: circle, kite, rhombus, pentagon, square, star, triangle, and hexagon. So those are the available icons that you can use inside of here as icon. Just make sure you spell them right. Make sure everything is spaced perfectly. All right, now inside of here, you can see the Astis orbit, and you know, this section is at negative 162, positive 11. So if we go back here, negative, positive is over here. So this right here is what we're looking at. And sure enough, this is negative 162 and positive 9 or positive 11. It's really close to that. So yeah, if you wanna scale this out, that's how I got it to fit in. The values aren't perfect, but they're close enough to show you exactly what is where. The other things are inside of each one of these blocks tells you what is contained in that spot. And we have, let's ignore the commented out ones. Those are the old ones from previous alphas. So 0, 0, 0 inside of that playfield, not, you know, the sector coordinates, but a local coordinate system, you have Astis Orbit, which uses this file, Space Asteroid Field Ring Astis. Okay. That references, if we go into the play fields, where is it? Play fields. Okay. Space Asteroid Field Ring Astis. Bingo. In that play field is defined all of the bits and bobs inside of that play field, meaning what asteroids are in there, if there are any like resource asteroids, where they are contained inside, using the same sort of position system as before. And the drone base and anything that is in there, in that playfield, exists in that file. So also in this section is actually the planet Astis, and it uses new lava. And new lava has got to be in here as a playfield. So there's new lava. And that includes, a bunch of raw data for height map, and basically the low map are just distant views of that. Not 100% sure how to create those. You could probably find more information. I'm focused on actual files. You can obviously copy and paste these in order to get started. But then you look in the individual playfield for the planet, and that gives you all of the details. You can edit, most of these. The ones that say, please don't change, I would recommend not changing. But, gravity, oxygen level, if the player can breathe, etc. And if you keep looking down here, you can see different settings that you can do. You can get pretty crazy, customizing all of the lighting, the clouds, the fog, pretty much everything. Go to the different special effects for weather. So, you can have heat waves, you can have wind. It just randomly picks any one of these. If you keep scrolling down, the terrain is new lava. Of course, that's where it's going to pull all of those files out of. So yeah, the new lava is where it's going to look, the directory it's going to look in for all of the terrain values. So then we get into biomes. Again, the spacing on these is so vital that if you misplace a space right there, that could easily corrupt the whole file and make it not load at all. So if you're having problems, really be careful with that. And then when you get down to resource deposits, here are your resource deposits. And when I'm going to go through, no, I don't want to save, and no, I don't want to save. This is the playfield, new lava 2. If we look in our sectors file, and we go down to Atis, I think it is right, not Astis, but Aitis, or yeah, Itis. This is the one I edited. I don't know if you remember the episode a couple episodes back when I went to that planet for the first time, and I was like, I just edited these files. I want to see what they do. Well, this is the edited file right here. And I didn't touch anything in the characteristics. I didn't touch the weather or the fog. I just went down to the resources. So let's scroll down a little bit more. And I can pull these resources up, make this font really big so we can look. So the Aurystrum resource in the rich world, this is basically the values that I changed. Now, count and size and depth, I would recommend not doing depth because I don't know if you want to dig super deep into the planet. But this 27, like I was like, okay, maybe that's 2,700. And I thought, okay, 2,700 is a good deposit. 1,500 to 2,700, that's a good deposit. But somehow, through magic, that 27 became something like 61,000 resources. So be very careful making these values too high. I just, put values in there to try to see what would result, what would come out of the end of it. So yeah, the Aurystrum resource 27 somehow translated into something like 61,000 ore in a deposit. Now, I don't know if I can get bigger than that, but that's, over twice that value. So you can play around with these. Drone probability of 1 means there's guaranteed to be at least a drone out. Max drone count of 4. So you can really beef this up. You can, have drone probability of 1 and max drone count. That can be like 12. And you can have a lot of drones around it if you want to make it tougher. Some of the other things that you can do with these values is you can actually set certain things. I'm gonna shrink that down a little bit. Hopefully everybody can still read that. But the next step, resource asteroids, is when you're mining these resources and you deplete a resource completely, which ones get asteroids to refill said resource? And that gets down on resource asteroids. Asteroid resources says, well, when you're down to 20%, send in an asteroid for an additional 20% of a resource. So basically it's just going to fill back up. So one asteroid would actually fill it up, and it shouldn't spawn a ton of more asteroids. It should be just one. And then if you go mine that asteroid, it'll send another one, and so on and so on. So I actually set this to replenish Aurystrum, Zascosium, gold, and Promethium. And yeah, it does work. It definitely works. And the next big one is the POIs. And a lot of these are pretty self-explanatory. Okay, so I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritty details, but one major issue here is spawn resource. This means that this POI, drone base Omicron, which, is another file, not in playfields, but in prefabs. There's a ton of prefabs in here. So yeah, there's a ton of stuff to go through in here. Let's see. No, those are not it. So, there's just so much you can just kind of go through, and, drone base. I'm assuming drone base is in here somewhere. I don't know exactly where it would be, but yeah, we're gonna go in here. So drone base setup, drone base. You can kind of guess what these are. You don't want to get too crazy with the individual tweaks, but this gives you the count min and max. So min 1, max 1. There's guaranteed to at least have one drone base on this planet, and drone probability, of course, is going to be 1. Drones min and max is going to be somewhere between 4 and 5, and reserve count means that as you kill the drones, it's going to have at least 5 that it's going to spit out at you. So that, that actually, you can set that number to be pretty high, and it will just keep spitting out drones at you. The spawn resource means that when this spawns in, it will get between 2 and 4 Aurystrum resources and 0 and 1 gold resources. So it sort of it sort of dictates how many resource deposits are on. So this will actually, when you find one of these on a planet, guaranteed to have resources nearby, which means it's tougher to get at these resources because there's a drone base right next door. So these are all of the different POIs that can exist. And there's the abandoned mine that kicked my... No, that's not the abandoned mine. It was the abandoned factory is what kicked my butt when I was a couple episodes ago. It was very frustrating. But again, this controls, you could have, if you like the abandoned mine, you could have between 1 and 5 of them up here on the planet. Okay, so the spawn POI of void, okay, that dictates what POI that this thing does not appear next to. So when it spawns the trade station Aitis, okay, and it tries to spawn an abandoned mine, just randomly putting one in there, it won't put it near this POI. So you can, individualize that. Okay, getting back, we're going to close this file. A lot of this is very self-explanatory. I would recommend going through and kind of going through all of this. And you can see drone-based setup. Here is where that drone-based setup actually comes into play. So if we go back up to the drone base that was up here, drone-based setup, obviously this is bound to that setup, and this actually tells you what to spawn, all that kind of stuff, and creatures and everything. Pretty self-explanatory. We're going to go back to here. Now, the last part of these playfields and these sectors is the allow and deny functionality. So the game will automatically connect playfields that are close enough to one another. Okay? So by close enough, I mean within one jump. So, this, I think this was Masperoon, and this was the trade depot. Okay, so if we go to Masperoon, we'll find kind of a weird, the allow, allow trading outpost. Even though that trading outpost is a long ways away, it still is saying, I want to force this connection. I want to make sure that is forced. And that's how those are connected. Basically, quote unquote, a wormhole. Now, the trading outpost doesn't go the other way. So it basically says it's a one-way trip. So if we find the trading outpost somewhere in here, there it is, trading outpost, deny Masperoon. So this is denying the return trip, but this, you can go this way. It's a one-way trip. And it's also denying asteroid field, because the asteroid field is really close. This is where the asteroid field is. It's really close to there, but it's saying, no, I'm not, do not connect those at all. Do not connect those. All right. So that's how you have that's how you kind of customize the orbits and how in the connections, the jump points. So if you want, you could get rid of all of those and have just jump points all over the place, and you'd be able to just jump, from one planet to another and just be able to just cruise around by allowing jumps, from anywhere to anywhere, and it would be just an absolute mess of dotted lines or dashed lines to try to get around anywhere. So, you can customize this file. You can customize all of these. You can create your own. You can use the play fields that the game offers and just customize, or you can create your own play fields. And you can do all of that, again, by adding your own scenario. So, you could take default multiplayer, copy and paste it, and then go in and edit the sectors file, edit the play fields. So all, you could have all of your own play fields, which are referenced in the sectors file, and you could, do just a lot of customization in here. Not really much you can do with the prefabs because those are in-game files, so you might be able to craft one of those. Just do some searching, see if you can save a prefab out and what it actually looks like. If I look in prefabs, I might be able to find my prefabs. So blueprints. So my jumper, there's the EPB. There's my jumper. So I could use this EPB file and have my jumper fly around as an NPC. So we could just cruise around, and I could face it. Have to face it in a custom world somewhere if you wanted to. So that will. Basically, that's the editing in a nutshell. I recommend going through and just, going through various files. The asteroid fields are a little gnarly because of how many asteroids there are, and it can be kind of daunting. But there's a lot of asteroids in here, and it's sort of you just go through and be very careful not to add spaces or tabs to these files. Again, I can't emphasize that enough. Do not mess with the spacing on these, because one space will destroy the file and make it unreadable. So if you're having problems getting something custom to load, that is most likely why. So that'll do it for this little tutorial and the series itself. Look for a new series debuting tomorrow. Really excited about it. We are covering Ark. So thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.